Hello, I'm Jonasz Rewiński and you're watching Break the Fake. They make them, we break them, and tell you everything you need to know. Just recently, the people of France woke up in the morning, turned on the lights, made coffee, went on to buy a baguette or two, and all of a sudden, they learned from Facebook that a coup d'etat has taken place in the country. No tanks in the streets, no shooting, no statements from the army, but with artificial intelligence as the commander-in-chief of the revolution. So, kind of like the Terminator, but in French, Les Terminateurs, maybe? Alright, let's be serious here. We need to see what it's all about. A video created using artificial intelligence telling of an alleged coup d'etat in France garnered around 13 million views on Facebook in just a few days. In the video, a reporter from the fictional channel known as Live24 reports with a serious expression that President Emmanuel Macron and his government have been overthrown. According to the logic of the video's creators, France fell faster than the news feed could be updated.
La chute de Macron. À l'heure actuelle, les informations non officielles évoquent bien un coup d'État en France, dirigé par un colonel dont l'identité n'a pas été révélée, et la possible chute du président Emmanuel Macron. Mais les autorités n'ont publié aucun communiqué clair. Nous continuerons à vous informer dès que nous aurons...
There is only one problem. None of this has ever happened. The French state continues to exist, Macron continues to work, Paris has not been taken over by rebels, and the Élysée Palace has not been turned into a TikTok revolution headquarters. But for social media, this, as it turns out, is not an argument. Despite official statements by the French president and denials by the authorities, Meta refused to remove the video, explaining that it didn't violate the platform's rules. It seems that on Facebook, a coup isn't a problem if it is fictionalized creatively enough. Now, this case clearly demonstrates the new reality of information warfare. Unscrupulous individuals can use artificial intelligence to overthrow governments with a few clicks, and social networks can spread these fantasies faster than states can react. The irony is that creating such a video requires neither journalists, nor sources, nor even basic responsibility. All it takes is an algorithm, imagination, and the publish button. And then it's up to presidents, diplomats and fact-checkers to sort it all out. Also, unlike in the Terminator, there is no time travel to undo such nasty tricks. Makes you think that maybe, just maybe, big tech companies are being a bit lazy about content moderation. The Russian propaganda machine has once again pulled out its favorite prop, the atrocities of the armed forces of Ukraine. This time, Kupiansk is once again in the spotlight. According to the Kremlin media, the Ukrainian military is allegedly shelling peaceful residents, persecuting civilians, and generally behaving in such a way that without urgent liberation from the Russian Federation, the city simply will not survive. There is only one problem. These stories exist exclusively in the imagination of the Kremlin crew, them and whoever's manning the Russian troll farms on any given day. The materials distributed by Russians are cobbled together using a familiar formula. They take a staged video of dubious quality, add footage without dates or geolocation, and top it all off with testimonies from people in the temporarily occupied territories who miraculously speak in identical phrases. The only thing missing to complete the picture is a small print caption, filmed under the supervision of the Russian Federation's military censorship.
У нас по соседству жила женщина, она лежала в Харькове в больнице. Когда она приехала, у нее на глазах с квартиры выносили все ее вещи. Она подошла к ребятам, говорит: хлопцы, ну что ж вы делаете, ну как бы, царь. Они наставили на нее автомат и сказали: хочешь жить, сядь и заткнись. И такое происходило сплошь и рядом, даже говорю, в 24-м женщину застрелили только из-за того, что они были пьяные. Женщина шла с ребенком просто по улице. Они начали к ней приставать, она начала убегать, они ей в спину выстрелили.
The persistent claim that Russia has complete control over Kupiansk looks particularly ridiculous. Control that, for some reason, did not prevent the presence of Ukrainian military personnel or the visit of the President of Ukraine himself. In the logic of Russian propaganda, it probably looks like this. If you constantly repeat that the city has been captured, sooner or later, the city itself will believe it and surrender, right? Now, the goal of the campaign is obvious and, in fact, nothing new. The Kremlin is trying to discredit the armed forces of Ukraine, undermine Ukrainian society's trust in its own army, and sow doubt among international partners. At the same time, it is using a classic mirror propaganda trick, shifting responsibility for its own war crimes onto Ukraine. The conclusion is simple. When Russia loudly cries about the atrocities of the armed forces of Ukraine, it is worth taking a closer look. Usually at this point, it is simply trying to drown out the noise of its own crimes. And Kupiansk, as before, remains Ukrainian, despite all attempts to capture it using strong words. Also, Russian propaganda can sometimes be remarkably fragile. Remember how Moscow started celebrating the capture of the city, only for their story to be undone by President Zelensky's frontline selfie? Self-proclaimed Belarusian President Alexander Lukashenko has once again surprised the public with a masterclass in alternative chronology. According to him, the Russian ballistic complex known as the Oreshnik has been in Belarus since yesterday and has already taken up combat duty.
Первым идет Беларусь, нам надо реагировать, дальше нас поддерживает Российская Федерация. Вот это и есть региональная группировка войск и тактического ядерного оружия, которое мы вернули в Беларусь. Кроме того, первые позиции оборудованы ракетного комплекса «Орешник». Он у нас со вчерашнего дня и заступает на боевое дежурство.
However, there is one caveat. Back in September, the Belarusian Foreign Ministry officially announced that this complex was already located on the country's territory. It turns out that Lukashenko's yesterday has been going on for at least several months, I guess. Moreover, at the end of October, Lukashenko himself said that Oreshnik was only planned to be put in combat duty in December. But as we can see, missiles in Minsk really love surprises. However, not everything is so clear-cut with Oreshnik itself. Ukrainian intelligence officers note that Oreshnik is more of a name for research work, and the actual system has a different name, namely the Kedr. It turns out that Belarus does not have Oreshnik, but some kind of Kedr, which everyone stubbornly calls in a different way. Confusing, I know. Now, the Russians first used this particular weapon, regardless of the name, on the 21st of November 2024, striking the Ukrainian city of Dnipro. Initially, it was reported to be an intercontinental Rubiež missile, but in the evening on that day, Putin clarified that it was a medium-range Oreshnik missile instead. The version changed faster than the Ministry of Defense's summary, and intelligence added that it was actually using a non-nuclear version. As it was not nuclear, I mean, it was easy to spot it because there was no nuclear blast, but anyway. In other words, the Russian message there was, oh, don't worry, we're just training, nothing to actually look at. Move along. If we believe the whole story is in fact true, we need to assume that the Oreshnik missile can now fly from Belarus to Kiev within 1 minute and 51 seconds. The flight time towards Vilnius would be even shorter, approximately 1 minute 4 seconds, provided Lukashenko would be willing to test NATO's resolve and risk losing his precious dictatorship in the process. Now, Lukashenko may get confused about dates, names, and his own statements, but the essence remains the same. Belarus is becoming increasingly involved in the Kremlin's nuclear adventure, becoming not a subject, but a platform. All this, of course, during a crucial stage of Ukraine peace talks, in order to exert maximum pressure on the West. And Lukashenko, of course, is enjoying his time in the spotlight, showing off toys which are not even his to control, like a TikTok influencer posing with a borrowed Ferrari, except the hashtag is geopolitics. And with this, we conclude this edition of Break the Fake. Please stay with us here on TVP World for more latest news and updates.